Greetings everyone, my name is Heike. You can usually catch me on Twitter under off-label. I'm kind of obsessed with the facts of labeling and people trying to put labels on everything, including people. And I'm also kind of obsessed about language and all other kind of things that are around words. Very good. I work as an online producer at Sparks Interactive. One of my many functions at Sparks includes being the producer for moving all our work into the open, as Dave yesterday said, whenever we find a place in the open for it. Part of this resulted in the New Zealand sector Drupal distribution and the launch of the platform sector.org.nz. And as Dave said yesterday, there's more to come. Very good. When I do billable work, and yes, my boss insists sometimes on this really strange concept, I work for the Wellington alphabet soup. Usually I don't do this alone, because at Sparks we always try to work in teams, multidisciplinary. I brought Tom with me. Tom usually helps me out across various things.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, so my name's Tom. I don't really have an established brand me, but I dug up this logo from my design school days, and I kind of liked it, so I decided that I'll define myself with this today. I'm a front-end developer and a designer at Sparks Interactive, and I sort of lurk in that misty grey area between front-end and design, and I love it. So I hope you enjoy our talk, and now I'll be handing back to Heike.
Very good. So, just want to let you know what we've planned for this talk. Now, we plan to go onto a lot of tangents. So one of my most favorite pastime when I don't have to work is non-linear storytelling, because life doesn't really work very linear. So feel warned. Also, as Amy said, bear with me and throw things at me. However, this all has a point. So we will totally confuse you, and then we come back and actually make our point. So bear with us. It looks kind of organized. So we talk about what a content strategy actually is. We talk about how design and code can support a content strategy. Why on earth is this so hard, and what can we do about it? So maybe we just hop in. What is a content strategy? So. The answer to this question is actually not straightforward at all. So there are several often quoted attempts at definitions, and we already had I don't know how many talks in this conference already mentioned the term content strategy, and nobody was talking about the thing I'm talking about, so it's really not as easy. Anyway, we have a Content Strategy Alliance charter that states a content strategy helps you to provide the right content to the right user at the right time for the right reasons through strategic planning of content creation, delivery, and governance. I usually show this slide to my clients, and they feel like kind of it's a straightforward process, and they feel kind of comforted. And let me do my thing. So, next one comes from a landmark publication from Christina Halverson in 2008. In her really standard, everybody should read this, the discipline of content strategy. And she said, content strategy plans for the creation, publication, and governance of useful and usable content. Now, this is actually something totally different. Good, okay. The issues, or the main thing I'm so worried about and why I'm talking here today, is that she wrote in 2008, when it comes to recreating and governance of content, it's easy to forget what we want, or even worse, we settle for less. 10 years later, we still settle for less. Good. So I said I'm obsessed about words, and I often use a dictionary. Content, it's a noun. Material dealt with in a speech, literary work, or other media, I added this in, as distinct from its former style. Keep this thought in your mind for a second. Information made available by a website or other electronic media. Now, this is really good, because this gets us now a couple of new things into the mix. We have the word material, we have the word information. So for the purpose of this talk, so whenever I talk about content, I talk about informational content, including data. Good. Now, let's have a look at the word strategy. A plan of action designed to achieve a long-term or overall aim. I work for New Zealand government, it's not easy. The art of planning and directing overall military operations and movements in a war or battle. This is how my work feels like every day, especially the second part there. So yeah, good. Because I always go, so when I always try to research something and find something why it doesn't work, I actually go back to the sources and the incredible stuff other people have written years ago, centuries ago, cave drawings, bring it on. Good, okay, so this is from Christina Halverson again, dated 2008. It's your core parts of your content strategy. It's substance, structure, workflow, and governance. So you have content components on one end and people components on the other end. I love this. It's not only about content, it's about people as well. I'm a bit struggling with the word substance, and I'm not really sure about this, but I'm not a native English speaker. I think it's hard enough to define content. But as I said, I just let this go. Now, I like to interpret this as follows. Substance is what are you publishing, why are you publishing, who reads the stuff, and why do they read it? Yeah, and then structure, how is your content displayed? Which media, it's not only how is your content displayed, how is your content actually, let's call it projected. Yeah, it isn't paper anymore. It isn't one screen size anymore. It can be audio. It can be video. How is your content presented? In which kind of structure? So we talk structure in the system, structure on the page, and structure all over the place. Lots more about this a bit later. Good. So what's in it for you? For you as somebody who actually publishes a website. A content strategy allows you to make better informed publishing decisions and publish better usable and useful content. So let's get an example. Let's assume, and I'm talking total theory here, let's assume you're a government funding body and you give a lot of money to a lot of people that do a lot of incredible great things that benefits your sector's industry and your country's economy as a whole. You have joined forces, just in the past, you have joined forces with another branch that advertises the same thing, but from a totally different angle. You end up with two very diverse audiences, and I'm talking here, in this very theoretical example, about end of the scale different people with evil eyeballing in between. Yeah? So, and then as a business objective, you want to present this whole and yourself now as one. Good. Your existing content is not written for your users, but for you, by you, and from your perspective. Remember, I'm talking theory. Something like this would never happen. And in part of this transitional change in your department, you also need to open your editorial team to actually get stuff done. You don't have one content writer only anymore. So let's step one thing further. Next in the theoretical exercise, let's assume that said entity came to you and asked for some advice. They asked for a new website. I asked them if we could try to fix up their content along the way. They said yes, sure. I was surprised. Anyway, great stuff. So what did we do? So where do we start? So we do all of the stuff. Day one, transition from hierarchical content and pages, page-driven to content, units and taxonomy or data-driven architecture, no-brainer. Transition to content units that work across devices, front-loading, preparing the client for the future. Very good. So the content lifecycle. So how do we actually do this? So we give them all the technology, and then they somehow need to run it's their site. They now sometimes they somehow need to run with this. They need to make this their own. So what process are we at? So what tool or the tool we are developing here, what process is it actually enabling? Yeah. So we said you should plan, create, validate, publish, maintain, and restart. That's a pretty modern publication workflow, not rocket science. Good. So I thought we look into two elements of this process in a bit more detail. The first is plan. So they need to plan, and to enable them to plan, you need to plan. So what are you going to do? You need to go talk to people. We need to audit. We need to give a verdict, and we need to tell them what they actually should do in the future. So with the research, yes, so we went and talked to people throughout the business, but especially to people who interact with the people who apply and receive funding. The client had also gathered a large amount of anecdotal feedback from users over the last 12 months. We didn't have the time to do any real-life user testing. We hope to do this after launch. Good. Everybody should know this. The last thing is always good. When you have done your research, write it down, ask for feedback, you might get some. Very good. Audit. Now, this is always the hard part, and I think this is really almost one of the largest obstacles in actually engaging into this whole process. We need to take stock. This hurts. Your content or data, every unit should meet a business or a user need, preferably both. It's time to do the hard work and take stock and plan for the future. So for those who are not familiar with content audits, it makes an incredible amount of, it's actually logic. I mean, you need to come in and do the hard work and just find out what is actually in your site, what is wrong, what can be better. It helps you, again, with the two components. It helps you with the content, but it also helps you with your people and the people who are going to work on this over time. So I promised I show some Drupal. So with the content audit, and this is really where we need help from technology, because most people, they just start with spreadsheets and then they get totally frustrated and then they give up and cry, which I can totally understand. I mean, this side is medium. It's a medium-sized site. I mean, we have shuffled sites across with 50,000 nodes. Yeah, at some stage you can't do a line-by-line content audit, but you need to at least audit your most important pages. So let's make this as easy as possible. Use administration views. Fill these administration views with as many, it's Drupal, add as many fields as you like. You don't show them in the front end, but just make this easier for people. Give them a bit of a content status, give them a bit of review notes, just give them actually the room to manage their content. Very good. And then I'm a big fan of this. So the guys export the data for me out of these views, and then we start to wrangle the content. And yes, it hurts, but yes, it also needs to happen. Good, okay, so we have crunched the data. We give a kind of nice verdict, so we say, guys, there's a problem, we need to solve this. And we give them a roadmap. For this roadmap, it also contains a content map and a content schedule. For those who are not so familiar with this, basically, your audit is your inventory, and your map and your schedule is your order form. And you use the same tools. You need to start with the spreadsheet, because guess what? The site isn't ready for you yet for the new content. But again, you think about content components and you think about people components, because somebody needs to write this content for you. Good. Okay. So, what have we done? I think, yeah, we covered substance, should be enough. Yeah, client knows what they are doing, why they are doing it, who reads it and why. So maybe let's have a look into the create process. Good, okay. So this create process really now means this is the process we want to support, where people actually sit down, start to talk to other people, and then write content. So we create content. Good. Now, to create content, you actually need to go to the source of the content. This is maybe news for some of you, and this is kind of news for some of my clients. But your writers, or better, let's call them editors, they are not, or should not be, your content owners or your subject matter experts. If they are, your expert might write contents without a professional editor to translate this into useful and usable content. This might not be where you want to go. However, you need to talk to these people and keep their numbers. They tell you what to do. They are awesome. Talk to them. Good, very good. This is awesome. Content style guide. This is where it's really, gets it nitty gritty with key messages and themes, voice and style, hands-on examples to support change. Yes, there's some boring stuff in it. We can skip over this. So basically, what you do is you just really try to. Yes, you need to do some writing and nobody's going to read your document, but you need to put some really good points down and keep them really kind of engaging and try, because everybody needs to get excited about this, so keep it engaging and just explain people what you try to achieve. And then give them real life examples. This is what you're doing. Maybe you could do it like this, and this is the reason. So content style guides are the real fun in this whole thing. Now, let's talk about structure. So in the early days, and we can all understand, or I can really understand where this is coming from, and I talk a bit about this later. So when the content strategy, people actually started to say we need content strategies, they kind of brought in the notion that the content structure is to copywriting as information architecture is to design. Let's hold this thought for a moment and discuss this in part 3. Anyway, how are we looking? Yes, there will be some writing. You keep this very short, so you need to enable people to write, so it's very red. So workflow and governance. So to enable the nitty-gritty task and to get people to actually use their keyboards, you need to start thinking about the who's and the whens. And there are so many tools and processes. They are really good, really well documented, and we just skip over these for this talk. Good. Okay. So we have enabled. We have done enough planning for the people now to be able to plan their own work on day 1 into the future. We have enabled them to create content. We have enabled them to validate content over the workflow and the governance. I kind of skipped over this. They can publish, they can maintain, and they know that they need to do this in continuous content integration and creation. So I think this actually looks already quite good so far. So what is really important, because content strategy has become such an integral part of the analysis part you do before you do the site, it's incredibly important to already show, like you have one idea, just share it immediately, spread them around, ask for feedback, and ask your totally engaged multidisciplinary team for feedback. So some design should already have happened alongside some pixels have been pushed, some people with brains got involved to make things happen, and I always go to Tom for this. So one of these people is Tom. So Tom will now basically just give you a bit of a rundown how this actually influences his day-to-day work. And he starts with design, but he also talks on another tangent a bit about code, and it's awesome.
Thanks, Heike. So content strategy at a fundamental level frames a project for the designer. As I said, my name's Tom, and I'm kind of passionate about fronting, methodologies. I love naming things. I really like this intersection between design and fronting. So literally theory in my part. We're going to look at some examples from the said government department. So let's go. How design and code can support content strategy. So I'm going to focus on this relationship between content strategy, design and code, and creating and organising and displaying web content. And then we're going to have a look at some modular approaches in both design and the front end, and see how these can honour the content strategy. So my starting point, as Heike said, her content strategy, or our content strategy, which includes information architecture direction, and also existing design direction in the form of brand guidelines from the client. So that's my starting point. So we're going to look at the first demo, which is words and pictures. The premise is that words and pictures depend on each other for completeness. I can pretty dry this one. Cool. So here's a homepage. As a designer, this obviously represents a really good opportunity to make a strong first impression. When I lay out this page, I'm really looking to find that kind of moment where I say, aha, that's it. So what do I have? Let's break it down. Oh, I haven't got like a pointer. Look at this. The words amazing, helping amazing stories unfold is a good starting point. So that language comes from the brand guidelines. It's sort of wrapped up in the way they want to communicate and talk. So first thing that jumps out is this word unfold. And so when I'm kind of making this, I'm building this relationship between the content and the image, I'm looking for these connections. And so this word unfold, when I put this image in, it just seemed to work for me because you've got these sort of ferns unfurling in front of the actor, and they have this kind of intrinsic direct connection to the word. And that might seem really subtle, but like to me, that's kind of what separates okay design from good or great design. So that's a win. So along with kind of the words amazing stories and the way that directly connects to filmmaking, the kind of New Zealand look and feel of the image, the nice sort of moody colours suiting the dark theme, and the general sort of composition, this kind of gave me that, aha, I think I've nailed it, like I've kind of married the two together. Yeah, not you. Thanks. So just to summarise, web designers can look for ways to find these complementary relationships between graphic and text. And it can enable you to make these really strong first impressions, which are really often crucial in effective web design. My second example, audience groups and branded graphic elements. The premise here is that these branded graphic elements, and I'm going to show you an example of one, can provide creative ways to sort of enhance content. So what do we have here? We have sort of like a graphic shape, and in the brand guidelines it said, a rectangle and a circle, simple in their appearance and bold in execution. So this is a device that the brand guidelines have asked, designers to use when they're creating material. So cool. I'm probably right.
Okay.
Yeah. We were having a bit of trouble with the navigator. So immediately on this landing page, you can see, kind of really good example of the bold, simple execution. Like it really kind of marries in well with the content. So there's an example of that applied, but that doesn't have a direct connection to content. That's just a visual element in this context. But what's really interesting about this example is that the content strategy kind of outlined an information architecture direction. And there was, these kind of major target audience groups that were identified, and they're represented by the top two tabs here, New Zealand and international. So you can see that there's a colour assigned to each category or each target audience group, I guess. And I was looking for a creative way that I kind of enhanced that. And so if we come down to the footer here. Just stopping here. So what I did is I took this sort of graphic element and I thought, oh, cool, we can use this to kind of wrap, the links that are directly relevant to that audience section, therefore kind of creating this nice connection. So I think this is a good example. Another use was within the information architecture, we've got kind of a funding and support, sort of a resource type node here. It lives, if you will, in the New Zealand section. That's where the content belongs or is authored. But there's directly relevant content in this website that we want to kind of tease in because it's related to this content. So again, you can see the use of the sort of circle and rectangle graphic device kind of above this financial incentives block on the right. So there again is a good example of these connections. So we can look for ways to make these relationships. There is opportunities, and the longer I've worked in web design, the more I've kind of understood this relationship between content and design, and that having a big impact on what you create. It is really important. So So my third example is content groups and modular design patterns. So we're going to get a little bit into some front-end stuff, but not too deep. So yeah, here we are. So modular design patterns, they're everywhere. Grids, buttons, spacing, you guys know this stuff. This is kind of like a revolution at the moment, modular design style guides. This is this direction that Drupal is heading in as well. You can read the CSS kind of guidelines on Drupal.org. Drupal's adopted these kind of BEM principles and supporting the SMAC sort of framework. So I'm particularly interested in content teasers for this example. So we're going to look at this design pattern. So what I mean when I say content teaser is, kind of what's output by these view modes. Lists of repeating content blocks, typically containing a large headline, a short blurb text, and an image or media like a video. Cool. So let's look at some examples from the site. This is the news and events landing page. So here's one standing out here. There's lots of these throughout the site, and the content kind of, depending on its purpose, takes on a different skin or a different persona. And so I'm looking at these patterns when I start, or as I develop a design, and then I try to move that thinking into the front end. We'll just look at a couple more examples. So on the home page, there's one down here. It's a little news teaser. And at films page, there's a couple more in there. And last of all, this sort of promotional teaser. So you can see, with those examples, there's lots of sort of different looks and subtleties to the way they're displayed throughout the site. So I've identified these patterns, and I've created this modular CSS sort of component based on the BEM principles. So we've got the block here, it's called slat. This class name, or this kind of idea, was termed by this guy who wrote Peers. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was like HTML snippets, sort of gone offline a bit. But anyway, he came up with the idea, and it's intentionally sort of ambiguously named, so it's separate from content and it's separate from, I guess, what Drupal outputs. So you can see the elements here and some modifiers. So what we've done here is we've developed a system to kind of build these teasers. And with the kind of addition of some object-oriented sort of CSS helpers, we've got this really powerful tool set to kind of create these patterns. So just one more time into the demo here. This is just an overlay to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So when I'm kind of building up these elements, I'm applying these classes. So independent of context, I always sort of behave in the same way. I can build this nice continuity. Last time I had to do that, which is good. So I'm going to just briefly show you some examples of how we can apply these classes in Drupal. Well, I found this a useful way to work. So within Display Suite, obviously you can kind of add these CSS classes to this kind of toolbox that comes with Display Suite. And then, I've got an article type field here, and, based on my system, I've got a style for the slat term in the context of a slat, so I can apply it here. So, again, in views, again, there's an example here, a class being applied to a field in a view. You can see that the point of the kind of component means it really has this flexibility, can be used in different ways of theming. And the last example is directly into theme template files. So you've got the system that's kind of like independent and in essence really powerful. So yeah, it's a great way to retain visual continuity. A lot of these teasers, you can't really tell how long the title's going to be or how long the teaser text is going to be. So if you design this one system and you can cater for all those instances, it gives you great power to retain the continuity in the content, which is what it's all about. Cool. So thanks. I'll hand back to Heike here. She told me to stop talking.
Okay, cool. So we have another 10 minutes. What I was told I'm fidgeting too much, so I gotta make it stick to me. Good. Okay. So what Tom just did is incredible. Tom just enabled a Power Drupal site builder to take control of the design. Yeah. And this is what we are talking about. Yeah. Not putting content. Don't put content in prisons. Yeah. Don't take content hostage. Yeah. Make content work. Yeah. So this is what we want to do. So why is this still so incredibly hard? I mean, we are doing this since Drupal 7 came out of its tiny thing and went along and looked at us and we said, oh, we really like you. So we are doing this, we are having the tools, we are having the knowledge. All of this isn't rocket science. So why is this still so hard? Because it must be hard, because the sites, and I'm Wellington, I'm thinking here government sites, but I'm also thinking sites that come out of enterprise. Yeah. Enterprise was too much money, maybe, I don't know. But I still see these sites, and these people still come to us and ask for new sites and don't want to do something about the content. So something around this process must still be too hard. Yeah. So let's have a look and bounce some ideas around. So this is us. When it comes to creating and governing content, it's easy to forget what we want, or even worse, to settle for less. We are settling for less. 3 observations. This is thinking, not doing. Now, which is strangely unpopular in the contemporary output-driven methodologies. I will hear back from that. 2, and even if there's time for thinking, nobody's going to read through your nobody's going to read through your beep documents. Sorry. I think this was in the code of conduct. It's fuzzy around the edges, and this is really I don't want to go over this, and this is why I skipped over this slide. Yeah, and it's a very famous quote. Yeah, what is content? Everything is content. What about design? Yes, it's content. Structure, content. Metadata, content. You probably expected a more incisive analysis than this. Well, how about literally everything is content? Good, okay. Remember that slide? Now, I'm not particularly happy with this one, but I can explain this now. So, content structure, as seen by content strategists. Structure defines how the content is organized and displayed. The content strategy as a whole informs metadata framework and content attributes. Information architecture is a process to organize and label data and content. Yeah. Design is the purpose, planning, and intention underlying an action or artifact, including websites. Everything is content. Structure is everything. Existential crisis? Not yet, maybe? What is the content strategy? Content strategy plans for the creation, publication, and governance of useful, usable content. But the creation of useful, usable content is a multidisciplinary effort. Yeah, not one person can do this, and not one person can do other people how to do this. Yeah, and I think this is still the problem. How much more time do we have? What can we do about this? Okay, please stop, tell people not to think. Tell them to think faster. I totally can understand this, I can relate to this. People don't think fast enough. Think towards minimal viable improvements and do and start over. Now, working in the open, move away from the paper or PDF. Try to find a space in the open. Stick to your own rules. Ask for feedback. Make your messages relate to your audience. Online writing is good writing. Online or offline, front load. Don't let people read your strategy. Tell them what to do. They can read the strategy if they disagree with you. Put a cat into it if you have to. Good. Okay, now, this is incredible. Everybody can see this. This is outsourced. MailChimp, people who know how to market content, they've put their whole online style guide out there. And they said, this is our company style guide. It helps us to write clear and consistent content across teams and channels. Please use it as a reference if you are writing for MailChimp. Please use this as a reference for everything. You don't need to do it like MailChimp, but it's open. And this is what Amy was talking about as well. It's not open source, it's open everything. The multidisciplinary. Now, okay, so we have user research, so the things that actually need to work together. User research, content strategy, information architecture, user experience design, graphic design, and code. Working together. How much more time do we have, Dave? 5 minutes. Okay, let me tell you a very, very quick story. So, I was like incredibly fortunate. I'm doing this since 20 years, and I was already old when I started. So I'm doing this since 20 years. I was incredibly fortunate because 20 years ago, 98, you came out of your little courses and stuff, and you were connected with companies, and the companies just sucked you up, put you in projects that were mind-blowing. You could you were sitting there all the day and thinking like, why do people think I can do this? It's written on a certificate, yeah, but gosh, wow, this is cool, I'm going to do this. So I was incredibly fortunate, got picked up by a film production company who put all of their TV docus on an interactive media. It was called a CD-ROM, looked like a little tiny silver disc, had some data on it. Very good, so these people were obviously incredibly clever because they saw interactivity not as a barrier or a threat. They thought like, wow, let's remarket our content. We have a large archive. They hired a lot of really super clever people, fun times. And they hired me, and I was sitting there, and I came in the first day, and it was so funny. Hey, we had an author on this team. Just believe this, there was an author on this team. Yeah, cool. Author, designer, somebody in between, somebody who makes things happen, and a macromedia director, developer, I think, I can remember that. Okay, cool. So I came in and thought like, oh my god, this is so cool, you've won so many prizes, I'm just dying to work for you. And I went to the art director and said like, oh, I think you're my new boss, where should I sit? And they say, oh, it's totally unorganized here, I don't know, but don't sit next to the author. Yeah, don't listen to her. Yeah, and I went like, okay. So I went to the project manager and said like, where should I sit? And the project manager went like, oh, we don't have another place, you need to sit with the author. Okay, so I sent him to sit next to the author and said, hi, I'm Heike, I'm going to push some pixels for you. How are you doing? And then she said, oh, did you already talk to the art director? Don't listen to him. 20 years later, what has changed? I mean, really, what has changed? So, some things have changed. We are trying to do this at Sparks. I yell at Tom. Tom never yells back. But I got a really nice pencil the other day. Good, okay. So, existential crisis. I went on a total tangent. What do I want to say? Working together, I was talking about working together. Okay, so existential crisis, no need. So yes, this is all fussy around the edges, and everyone wants to have a pick in the pot, or however you say this. We don't need to define a process to the x degree to achieve results. We just need to start. We need to start together, and we need to fail, and we need to fail together, and start again together. Because a failure of a website is not a failure of technology, a failure of content, or a failure of a single thing. Just the mixture just doesn't fit. This is when websites fail. Good. Okay, now you can come to me and talk to me. You can disagree with me. I'm doing this a lot. That was that. Yes. I'm supposed to repeat your questions. I really need to.
Very loudly. Do you use any Drupal tools, for an example, content auditing?
Yes, we do. Sorry, I skipped over this. I skipped over this quite fast. So we use administration views. Administration views basically just lets you control your content audit views. You can do this with a normal view as well. It's just somehow faster because it's in the admin UI. Now people start asking me if this is Drupal 8. I'm talking Drupal 7, sorry. I'm sure at Drupal 8 it's really sexy, it really will work. Cool. And then what else we do is we put as many fields on the as many administration and numbering fields that you need onto the content node as well. And then we create those views, and you can reshuffle the columns so that you get as close as to your spreadsheet as you like. And then you can usually you hand this over to a spreadsheet because people want to add columns like crazy. Yeah, but in the end you can then feed in some of this information you have done in a spreadsheet back into the view and into the content type just via feeds.
Can you talk a little bit about
Yes, I have so many job titles. I have one that forces me to do wireframes as well. Yes. Oh yeah, sorry. The question was if we use wireframes. Yes, we use wireframes. However, and now I have to be a bit salesy, we don't wireframe in applications anymore. We wireframe in sector. So one of the reasons why we built the sector distribution was that it allows people like me who don't code to build displays really quickly. So that's what we are doing. Basically, I go manage displays and push stuff around and then try to work with data and fields, and yeah, it takes a tiny bit longer. That would take me to just, and we use paper. So we use paper and Drupal, but we try to not use anything in between, but it's hard.
Yeah, I'll answer that as well. Like it's not as black and white as that. There is still this sort of transition period where some wireframing is done, in the design process, sometimes in Illustrator, even on the way into creating sort of mock-ups. But if we can, we sort of move straight into the Drupal site, and we actually start site building and moving things around in that context. And we found that, you kind of need that skill set which crosses over a bit, because if you need a designer who can also site build and do inject classes and things around the place as well, so it's a specific skill set, but it is somewhere we're heading.